many years later. And I was then living in Harrogate in Yorkshire. And I was travelling over, because at that stage I was Divisional Human Resources Manager for Nuffield Hospitals. And I was travelling over to the Chester Hospital, or I was travelling over for a meeting the next day over in Chester. And as I was coming over the M62, as you come down towards Milne Road...
Over the Pennines.
Over the Pennines. It was a bleak autumn night, and there was mist and everything. Now, I have a little machine called an Arcos, which is a kind of a super MP3 player.
It's an iPod, isn't it?
It's like an iPod.
French iPod.
It's a French iPod, but much, much better. Much, much better. You know, I can't tell you how good these machines are.
This has been an advert, a free advert for Arcos.
For Arcos. They are great machines. The latest one is superb. Anyway, what happened was that I have all my whole CD collection is on there, thousands and thousands of tracks, and I always have it on random play, and I've had it on random play for 6 or 7 years, because I've had 2 or 3 of these devices, and they're always in the car with me on random play, because I really like the idea of you don't know what next track's coming up, and you listen to it more precisely. So it's playing random play, and Round of Blues had never ever come up, and there I am coming.
Or had never come up.
Had never come up ever, and it's never come up since, which is the other important. It's never come up since either. And I'm driving along, and I'm towards Milne Road, and it comes on. And there was a sudden sensation right down my neck, and a sort of shock like a bolt. And I went, significant. Something said to me, this is significant. This has to be significant. So I turned the car in. And as
you were in the outside lane, were you?
I was in the middle lane, and I turned the car in.
To the inside lane?
To the inside lane. And as I did so, there was a van in front of me, a load of crash barriers.
Like a flatbed?
Yeah, flatbed with a pile of crash barriers on.
Metal crash barriers?
Metal crash barriers, so it's like that. I come in, the second I do that, the crash barriers came flying off the back and bounced in the road. That would have hit my car. I would have been killed. The reason that that record became my record that I wanted at my funeral was because I remembered it from my last life. And it was the last thing I ever remembered. And that's why it became associated with me, with my own death. And that's why I made the association with the funeral.
But even more bizarrely, we looked at the lyrics today, didn't we? I'm going to read out a little bit of these lyrics, because these lyrics are strangely prescient.
And I'd never noticed this before.
She sings, we had our bitter cheer and sweet sorrow. We lost a lot today. We get it back tomorrow. I hear the sound of wheels. I know the rainbow's end. Oh, I'm going all funny now.
I know, it does put shivers in.
I see lights in a fat city. I feel love again. So there you go.
And you know, and I only noticed those lyrics about 6 or 7 months ago, and I put them on my blog site because it stunned me so much. And that's what we find. We call this term on my forum. It's a term I've called synchronidity. It's synchronicity, and it's also serendipity. It's the things, the way coincidences bring about strange things within your life. Just watch the coincidence, because it's your daemon warning you. Funnily enough, one thing you haven't picked up is Philip Pullman.
Oh yes,
the concept
his
of the daemon.
His dark materials. Yeah.
And if you look at the principle in there, it's exactly the same as my book. He just doesn't use the term eidolon.
Yeah.
But the daemon is there. It's attached to you. It follows you around in your life. It's your confidant and everything else. And I had emailed Philip, and he is aware of what I've been writing.
So, in terms of practicalities, if people know that they have a daemon, let us say, or are prepared to accept that they have a daemon, when they have that knowledge, does that change their life in some way?
When they become more aware of the daemon. Now, this again is one of the debates we've had long and hard. Is if my theory, if my hypothesis is correct, and we do have a daemon, why is it coming out now? And why is it that so many people's daemons are leading them to this book? On my forum and on my website, I have people who have, there's a list of things. How did you first come across Anthony Peake's work? And it's in the section, one of the sections. And lots of people have now put on the bizarre circumstances whereby they picked up my book. For example, there's one amazing experience by one of Britain's top mediums, who I can't use her name because you'll see why when I explain. She was on a tube in London going to an interview at the BBC. While she was on the tube station, there was a lady sitting opposite her who had a plastic bag. As it came into the tube station, the lady stood up, and the plastic bag, the lady allowed the plastic bag, and a book fell out of it. The medium went forward and picked the book up and held it like this, and went to hand it back to the woman. And the woman said, "No, this is your book, you must read it. This is for you," and got off.
And
the
you
tube.
don't know, well, you know the medium, the famous
I know
medium
the
now, but you don't know the woman with the
no,
book.
It's a mystery wrapped up in
And
an enigma.
this was this book,
This was
wasn't
that book.
Is There Life After Death?
And she picked it up and she started reading it, and she was so stunned by the opening chapter that she got up and phoned up the radio station and said, "I'm not coming in today, there's something I have to read." And she read that book from cover to cover, finished it at 4 o'clock in the morning, emailed me and said, "My God, this book is powerful. It's explained what I've long suspected. My spirit guide is myself. And it's myself that is precognitive. And I have lots of mediums who come to my talks who all say, it's my spirit guide."
So a lot of mediums and psychics say that their spirit guide is an American Indian, or is a little girl who died in the Napoleonic Wars or something. So according to your theory, actually that's just a way that the daemon makes it kind of acceptable or easier.
In other words, it doesn't want to manifest itself immediately as being you. It does, I mean, for instance, the doppelgangers. When it manifests as a doppelganger, it manifests as you.
And that's usually a sign that you're about to die.
And it's a sign you're about to die. In the book, I deal with Shelley's doppelganger.
Shelley the poet.
Shelley the poet.
Percy Bysshe Shelley.
Percy Bysshe Shelley, yeah. And when he was on...
Okay. We're gonna go for another break now. Once again, if you'd like to text in your questions or comments to Anthony Peake, please do so now. Just text 87778 with the word EDGE, and then your text. See you back here very soon. Welcome back to On the Edge with me, Theo Chalmers, and my special guest, Anthony Peake. I just wanted to say to one of the texters here, Tony in Barnstable, said sorry he didn't leave his name earlier, and then the rest of his text got cut off. So if you want to send that text in again, if you have to keep them fairly short or they get sliced. There's one here I think we need to talk about quickly. Why does your guest refer to the Holy Spirit as demon? This is from Jack in Plymouth. It's not demon, like D-E-M-O-N, it's daemon. And, I mean, there is evidence that certain religious communities have demonized the daemon,
correct,
which is an ancient Greek philosophical idea.
Correct.
By calling it a demon and then making it like a satanic thing.
Yes. It's very much, I'm not, whatever the Holy Spirit is, my daemon is not the Holy Spirit. It is something within yourself. And one of the things I've been very careful to do is to highlight the theological aspects of this theory, because one of the things I'm very proud of is that it doesn't invalidate anybody's religious beliefs. In fact, many religious people are on my forum and on my website, because when they look into it more deeply, they find that it's almost a unification of a lot of religions. For instance, I've been invited to talk at a Sufi monastery.
Sufi?
In northern Cyprus. That was a few years ago now, and nothing's really happened from it. But effectively, the invite was there. I've had a Buddhist monk come over from Australia. He was visiting England, but he came over to see me, and I met him in a Buddhist monastery. And in fact, he said, "I'm amazed that you have scientifically proven many of the elements of Buddhism."
Well, we did have a text earlier about Buddhism, but it scrolled off the screen, so I couldn't read it. But
it's the Bardo state, and in the Bardo state, they have something called, I think it's Kali Chakra, and I would be stand corrected on that, but I believe it's Kali Chakra, which is wheels within wheels. And it's the end of your life, you go into this Bardo state, and you live your life over and over again, your own life. So, in fact, there is a lot of religious precedents. Indeed, even a group of Jehovah's Witness Mormons came to one of my talks, very hostile and ready to have an argument with me in Leicester. And by the end of the talk, they were so enthralled by the theory that their pastor, or whoever it was, went out and underlined sections of the Book of Mormon that proved my theory. So, all I can say is there are religious elements in here that you can find within it. You can find things that won't challenge your beliefs, will probably support them. And it's never been my intention to do anything other than to try and understand, and possibly give a non-religious or a non-theist argument to the possibility of immortality.